So, good morning or good night, depending on where you are in the world, and welcome to another interview of the Shield Dude on a Couch. I'm your host, Hector, and tonight I'm joined by two members for death thrash metal band from the Bay Area, Glacier Eater. So, guys, how are you tonight?
Very good. Great. How are you?
I'm good. I've been to the Bay Area, so yeah, I know it's super early over there, but I'm guessing it's super cold as well.
No, it's actually really nice.
Today is nice. It was cold recently, but it's not too late yet. It'll probably get colder later tonight. It's still like early evening for us.
Okay, so for people who watch this video, let me know your name and what you do in the band.
Oh, I'm Keith. I do guitar as well as some vocals here. And then Ryan.
I'm Ryan. I also play guitar and do vocals. I was more of the lead vocalist on the first album, but this one we split it up, and so now we're both kind of sharing vocal duties on this one.
Yeah, Ryan does more of the lead guitar work as well, and I do more of the rhythm stuff too.
Okay, so yeah, but it's good that you have the two of you to sing. I think that's something that's more notable now, where you have bands where you have two people singing. I'm sure that helps with especially for live shows. So you just released your second album, Tempest, on October 27th, and this is the follow-up to your first album, which was called Glacier Eater. So from 2015 to now, I know it's been a while, and I'm guessing, obviously, everything that happened with COVID delayed the second album, right?
Well, that, but also we're both in other bands and stuff. We stayed busy, so like after the first album, we played plenty of shows for the few years after that. And then I was pretty busy with like the city. He was kind of busy with Sworn Vengeance, and so Glacier Eater kind of was sitting on the back burner for a minute up until, and then COVID happened, like you said, and then it was just like, all right, well, let's get this train rolling.
Yeah,
for the new album.
I would say the other delay too. We had a couple lineup changes, as you saw from our history there, but so that really kind of put a delay on the Glacier Eater, I would say, release, projection. But then once we got those people in place, we were kind of all back on board and jumped right back into the album.
Awesome. So I don't know if no one asked you, because it's kind of an interesting name, Glacier Eater. Like, what inspired that name? Is it something from a book or a movie?
It's actually it's from nothing, really. We were just sitting around eating burritos at a practice one time, and we had no name for the band or whatever. And I think Keith said like burrito eater first, and then we just kept like we kept saying different things, eater with a weird voice at each other around. And then Glacier Eater got said, and we were just like, and then like I remember for like the next week or two, it kind of like kept coming up like Glacier Eater, that's not bad. Like, all right, let's, because naming a band is one of the most frustrating things in the world, because you have this thing, this abstract thing, and then you're like, okay, I gotta call this something, I guess. So it's great that it worked out pretty just naturally, and we found a name that I'm still happy with it.
Yeah, it's a fun thing that we did, and feel like it might have come from some reference I had with maybe like Never Ending Story or something like that in the back of my head subconsciously, but really not like a specific the band has to be this name and it means this and that. It's really just for fun, and really the music makes the name at the end of the day.
Yeah, you couldn't name it Atreyu, because that's already being taken.
We need some lawyers for that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm trying to remember where in the Never Ending Story there was a part where they say Glacier Eater, because that's...
Oh, it was the character Rockbiter.
Ah,
If you remember that character, he's kind of in the beginning running away from the nothing and the the snail and all that. But I think that's the closest thing when I was kind of trying to figure out where I might have gotten something like that from. That might have been the closest thing, but that's really just scanning my subconscious in a sense.
okay, well, it's a catchy name. So from 2015 to now, obviously you have lineup changes. How did that affect the sound of this record with new members? How different from the first one would you say this sounds?
Well, Trey comes from our previous drummer, Jimmy. He came from a real like tech deathy and or like jazz type of background, so like his playing was a lot more like fast and loose, not in a derogatory way, but I mean like literally he played a lot like fast and he was real loose with his playing. But Trey he comes from like a punk and hardcore background, and like up until this album of ours, he had only played single kick pedal and everything, being in punk and hardcore bands. And when we considered bringing him in on the project, I told him like, hey, I can like tinker with the drum parts I had written and like, maybe suit them more to your style and like, have, turn some double kick parts into D beat parts or something, that he could do. And he basically said like, no, I'll just learn how to do double kick and be good to go. And so he spent the next like, 6 months or whatever, like just working his ass off until he could hammer away. And Trey is the most solid drummer I've ever played with. And I played with him before in a band called Wilderness Dream, and I also toured with him when I filled in for Heart Sounds. And yeah, he's a crusher. It's every time I play with him, I'm impressed still.
Awesome.
Yeah, definitely echo the same sentiment there, with Trey being the most solid drummer I've ever played with. Definitely, we're super lucky he jumped on board with us. And I would say in terms of the difference in like the sound with the different members too, maybe our tempos are a little bit more concrete on this album, whereas the first album, it was more just kind of A to B as fast as we could, really straightforward. I feel like Trey, and with his abilities as well as bringing Brett into the picture, really makes the parts much more solid, much more coherent, and just much more musical overall.
No, yeah, it's a record. It's like a 35 to 32 minute record, so it's not like a super long record. So for you, when you were working on this record, like do you have like a track for you that for someone that hasn't listened to Glacier Eater, you would say listen to this song and you will get like a sense of what the band is about?
That's a tough one. That's something we're proud of on this album, where I feel, or even the first album too, I feel like we don't have a specific song that defines our sound. We go from being very heavy sometimes to being very melodic, or even kind of more in a major key sometimes, which is not very common for our style of music. And so, with that, on this first album, or the second album, I should say, I would go with, one of the hard songs and then maybe one of the more major songs, like maybe Disharmony, the second song, and then maybe the last song, Homeward. But it would definitely be like a package deal in there. But what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, that's always been the point of this band, is that it was never confined within, we were shooting for any kind of subgenre. It was just like, it's like in my mind, it's just general metal, and people will call us like melodic death, melodic thrash, but it's like I never, when writing the music, I'm never like shooting for any of those territories. It's just what is exciting musically. And so yeah, I mean, I hate to tell people like maybe just listen to the whole album, but like because the mood of it all shifts from the beginning to end, reflecting that story that we're trying to tell. And so yeah, hard to say, but I mean, we did release the title track Tempest first, and that's a good one. Where it's plenty heavy. But it's got a lot of shreddy guitar parts. I think it's a song that grabs attention pretty quickly and holds it through the end. And so, if I had to pick one, that's why we made it the first single.
Yeah, that's a good one. Go with that one.
Makes sense. So I'm gonna show the artwork of the album. For people who haven't seen it. So here we have Tempest for Glacier Eater. So tell me a little bit about this album cover. It looks pretty cool. Like you could actually, this album cover, you could think that it could be either power metal or it could be thrash, it could be death. It's a album cover that you have to like think like, hey, it could be any style.
Yeah, exactly. It is one thing I love about it. And when Trey, brought that to us, he gave us a few different drafts, and when we landed on this one, it was very nice because it like you said, it has that ambiguous nature to it. Just even with our logo too, we didn't want to have a logo that was too thrashy, too deathy, too any. You know, I mean, it's pretty just straightforward. Like, there you go. Like, this band's called Glacier Eater. Up to your imagination what it sounds like until you listen to it. You know, so yeah, it does it, and it conveys that like epic quality of this album, and it being a concept album, so it has that like power metal-y element to it. And I think there's a lot of power metal in our sound, even though we don't do much, you know, singing of that style. But I think as far as like the riffs go, there's a lot of power metal influence. That's the stuff I kind of grew up on, you know, Rhapsody and Blind Guardian and stuff like that. Those are some of my childhood favorites.
Yeah, this album cover is real fun too, because it's kind of, if you look at our first album cover, you know, it kind of shows this battle that's going on from the land, and you see this kind of ship out in the distance. And it's really kind of a theme from one of my old bands that we had an album cover with that ship. And so that first album has that ship in the background where it's kind of destroyed. And this album, we wanted to bring that almost imagery and maybe possible story to the land. So almost kind of, you know, is a prequel to that as well, to where, okay, this might have happened to end up, you know, into that first situation that you see on the first album with like a wrecked ship and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, this is what got him there.
Yeah, no, it's pretty cool album cover. And you said, did your drummer work on this cover?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Wow.
he did this himself. You know, Trey's great, definitely very creative. And yeah, he took the bull by the horns and did a great job.
Yeah. No, it's good that you got a drummer that can also do album covers. So it's a win-win situation for you guys.
Yeah, he's a great photographer. He's great. He's also been like making some electronic music that's really fun too. Like, he's got a creative
artist.
brain. Yeah,
he's an artist.
He's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, so let's talk a little bit about the theme of the record. You say there's like a concept that goes with it. What is the concept of Tempest per se?
All right. So on our first album, our self-titled song Glacier Eater is about it, and this was written without any kind of plan or anything like that. It was just a fun song to write. But the song called Glacier Eater is about a ship being attacked and destroyed by a giant sea monster. And then I always liked that because it was, you know, a kind of like cool fantasy realm thing. And when I had a bunch of the music that I was arranging for this album, I wanted it to be like a story. And so because, you know, there was a range of emotions, and I was like, okay, if I arrange these different parts in a certain way, then it can, you know, the mood of the story can like twist and turn with these parts, as opposed to them just being weird and like disparate songs that, you know, maybe wouldn't fit together in another context. But if you put, you know, a storyline to it, the emotional changes in the music can like make a lot of sense. And so then from there, then it was a process of like, okay, well, what the fuck is the story going to be? Can I curse on here?
Oh yeah, you can.
Okay. And then, you know, just, I don't remember when, but at some point it occurred to me like, well, what if we just explored that ship, our self-titled song ship, and that crew, and like what happened to them before they got there and all died. And so that was the fun thing. It was like doing a prequel, but we already know that the end is tragic and terrible. And so it was fun to write this story with these characters that I could really like abuse and put through hell, even though I know that they're all gonna die in the end anyway. So it was, and then from that, then what's especially impressive is the way that like with that storyline, I think like on the first album, a lot of the songs were, you know, pretty self-apparent. Like, this song's about this song's about this, you know, like the song's about a sea monster, this song's about fucking breakup I had, this song's is about, you know, fucking cops beating up on people at protests, blah blah blah.
How did a breakup get into a record about some people dying in a glacier frozen land?
That's the thing, is on this album, like, I think we were able to channel a lot of like personal thoughts and things through these characters and into this story, and kind of bring them to life in a fun way. And that's what I'm really still impressed with everything Keith wrote, and very happy with all the stuff that I was able to do, because it's it's a fun, interesting way to be able to express ourselves with our personal things through this like fiction and you know, through the eyes and the mouths of these characters that we've created. So yeah, it was a lot of fun to make. It was a pain in the ass, but it turned out good.
Yeah, the biggest
So-
challenge we had you know, kind of an ending already. We know how the ending turned out. So we had a story that we kind of had to fill in before, as opposed to just, you know, writing individual songs. Like you said, this song is directly about a breakup, or this song is about cops, or whatever it may be. This, we had a story that we had filled in. So a lot of the process was, I might have already had lyrics written for about something completely different, but able to find similar sentiments within that writing and applying it to this story and creating something out of other, you know, other projects or potential songs, which, you know, was a ton of fun, but very, very challenging, and a different process for us, which is great.
Yeah, you were probably thinking, let's not George Lucas this. let's not Jar Jar Binks our record.
Absolutely.
So yeah, interesting. So you guys, you both sing. Do you both write lyrics, or does Ryan do more the lyrics, and or do you divide them?
We both wrote
Divide them,
probably
yeah.
an equal amount on this
Yeah,
album.
we
It's
just
pretty,
divide.
yeah, hard to even, if we went through the word count, I bet it'd be close to 50. Like, you
Yeah,
know.
we've never done a word count, but yeah, you know, we both write lyrics on the side. And like I said, so when we had the ideas and what we wanted to do with this album, we both just came to the table with a ton of stuff that we had already written in terms of lyrics. And we just started applying it and taking pieces and putting it into the structure that we wanted them and to fit the storyline. So,
And tinkering with them too, just like, you know, it's like, oh, you have this thing that,
exactly.
you know, like, because he would give me just pages and pages of stuff he'd written, and like, it's like, well, okay, well, there's this thing, but if we turn this around, like you change this word to this word, then it can like apply to this. And so yeah, it was the first time I've ever written an album like this, and it was challenging at times. Like there would be times when we were up late at night and we would just be arguing and not even get anything done. But...
Yeah, just trying to figure out, no, this does make sense for
Yeah.
the story, or this doesn't, or
Yeah.
there'd be times we'd be completely you know, have writer's block and be sitting at my house watching, you know, like Jaws or Apocalypto and stuff like that, just looking for, you know, just some sentiments or inspiration to like help us finish the gaps in our lyrics that, you know, we wanted to fit the storyline.
Yeah, no, interesting. So you guys being a thrash metal band from the Bay Area, obviously the Bay Area is known for thrash metal. Like right now, how's the thrash metal scene in the Bay Area? Like what new groups are like, you know, besides yourself, like what's the scene like right now?
It's very, very good. There's a lot of good bands around. I mean, you know, Necrot and Night and Hellfire. There's a lot of fun metal bands that are kind of popping off right now, and yeah, it's fun to like. This band hasn't played shows in a while, so like since this album we've played a few and hoping to play a few more. But it's a different scene than we played in before, which is fun and exciting too. So yeah, there's a lot of fun metal going on here.
Yeah, the local Bay Area scene here is definitely, it's always evolving, you know, every scene, I'm sure, like every 5 years or so. But I would say we have a lot of that, a lot of new fresh hardcore bands coming into the scene as well that are really kind of influencing things as well. So there's a lot of different, you know, tastes and flavors going on, and it's a great diverse scene in terms of music.
Awesome. So you guys are you planning when are you planning on doing some shows, maybe this year or the beginning of next year? You know, what are the plans for Glacier Eater for the time being?
Yeah, we have a show coming up at the end of the month at DNA Lounge. We're playing with Suffocation over there. We're going to be opening up for that tour. Besides that, we have a couple things in the works we're trying to confirm, but hopefully we'll be hitting the road, or, you know, having a lot more local shows coming up in the end of the year as well as the beginning of next year. But that DNA show should be great here in San Francisco.
Nice. Where is that gonna be at?
San Francisco.
Oh yeah, but
DNA.
we're in San Francisco.
Oh, sorry, the DNA Lounge.
Okay, the D Lounge. So so for you guys growing up, when you were like starting as musicians, like which bands inspired you to become musicians?
You go first. I need another drink.
For me growing up, I would say my biggest one was probably Van Halen. You know, when I was a kid, I would hear and listen to Van Halen all the time, especially Van Halen and AC/DC. Once I heard those guitars, that was kind of always stuck in my brain, and I had to play guitar, and I eventually did and got to it. But I would say really those two bands kicked me off into that. And from there, you know, I went into a bunch of other things, you know, of my generation, from punk to hardcore to metal. But I would say those two bands are probably my biggest influence right off the bat. And then, you know, from there, you know, Ryan has a lot of, I would say, more thrash and metal influences that he can speak to here in a second. But and those are the sounds that I say would affect, or really kind of you hear more in Glacier Eater. Maybe a little bit of that Van Halen, but I definitely come more from that, I would say, classic rock kind of vibe.
Yeah, and for me, the band that made me want to pick up a guitar was Metallica, and then from there, you know, it was thrash stuff. You know, it was Anthrax and Megadeth and Slayer. You know, learning how to play all those songs, and then it was like, you know, Death, and then like In Flames, Children of Bodom. You know, like the European kind of melodic scene. That's where a lot of, you know, my melodic guitar sensibilities came from. And then yeah, now I'm most inspired by a guy named Mike Mills, who has a band called Toe Hider in Australia, which is just all over the map. But yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, very varied like music taste. So so the album is out now. Can people, besides getting digital copies, are there physical copies available that people can buy?
Not yet.
Not quite yet. We're hoping to have something next year. Really kind of depends on a couple other factors. Right now we're waiting to confirm, but we hope to have that going on, and we'll definitely announce it once you know, the dates are kind of more in line.
Yeah, but I maybe you have some merch for the shows.
Oh, definitely.
We
have
still have copies of the first album on LP,
shirts and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
If you just go to glacierrecordings.com, that's you know, the label. There's a store there, and you can get all of our stuff on there.
Okay. And so yes, it seems like you got it pretty figured out. So obviously, I know physical copies are hard to come by, but they can put it, like they can buy it digitally through Bandcamp or something like that, right?
Definitely, you can definitely buy it if you want to have a actual file to download. Definitely go there, but otherwise, exactly, the full quality. But otherwise, if you want to stream it, you know, it's on all the digital platforms too to stream. So it's definitely accessible.
So guys, you know, it's been fun to chat with you a little bit tonight, you know, about the album, music in general. So before I let you guys go, like you know, we're almost at the end of the year. Like, do you have, like, what are your favorite albums that have come out this year?
That's a tough one.
I can go first. As I mentioned before, Toe Hider. He's it's a one-man band, but he's this maniac, and he's been I think he's done 4 now, but he's doing 12 EPs in 12 months. So every month he releases another EP, and it's just wild, all over the place stuff. And I can't even call it a genre. I guess you could say prog, because he just kind of does everything. But like, but you know, one album will sound medieval and another album sounds like 1985 worship stuff, you know, worshiping like, you know, Phil Collins and Genesis, but then also hair metal stuff. And yeah, he's just he's my favorite musician right now.
I'm gonna go with the new Judas Priest stuff. That the new song stuff sounds crazy to me.
Yeah, but that's not an album, that's a song.
I'm gonna go with that one though. I just off the top of my head, I was listening to that a lot recently. I just can't get over their performance, and just those guys still do it.
It's a killer track. Yeah, I agree. So people, Glacier Eater-Tempest is out now, at least digitally if you want to listen to it or buy it. Physical copies will be next year. So I'll put the link for the social where you can find Glacier Eater and follow them, so you can get more updates. So any last thing that you'd like to say to the people who watch this video before we go?
Thanks again for, you know, tuning in. Definitely check us out. Again, all those digital platforms. Read the lyrics. We love it when people talk about the lyrics. That's a big thing I would say I always appreciate it, especially if someone, you know, says something about the lyrics. But yeah, thanks for having us.
No, of course. Thank you for taking some time. So people, get that Glacier Eater album. And you know, there's some great tracks on it, and it's a fun record, you know, like a 32-35 minute death thrash metal album. So if you want to listen to new like death thrash metal, you know, there you go, new band, fairly new band for you guys. So until next time, people, this is Hector, the Shield Dude on a couch, and I'll see you all right here on the couch. Thank you and goodbye.